Produced by Podcast Architects.
You're listening to the Lead On podcast, where we discuss experiences in the armed forces while exploring lessons from military leaders.
Yeah, I love that how you just described the bond, the brotherhood that we in the military all experience. It's the one thing that you ask any of us who transitioned out, what do you miss most? It's not the job, it's the people. And it's so obvious when you get a couple of us together and you find out, just the other day I saw some old man wearing an Air Force ball cap at the doctor's office, and I just said, "Thank you for your service." And he said, "Oh, did you serve?" And boom, there was an immediate bond. And we talked, and then even the people behind the desk take notice of it. That downtime is so important. I had to learn, I can't expect to take, a day of downtime. I had to learn how to maximize, short periods of downtime. And sometimes it's like, listen, I need to take a break. I need to give myself 30 or 40 minutes or an hour or two to read, to decompress, to recharge. Otherwise, like you said, you'll burn yourself out. You just, over long periods of time.
And ultimately, that does more harm to the organization than it does good.
Yeah, and I hear about it, just listening to our conversation and listen to what you say, we can go right back to your why. Listen, I don't want to be that guy that didn't work because I failed. So always in the back of your mind, I'm sure being aware of, I've got to take care of me so that I can make sure that I'm not the guy that causes everyone to suffer or fail. So you did two 6-month deployments for sure on the space station. How does that compare to, any deployments that you made to, you were a SEAL from 2001 to 2000. Well, you're still a SEAL, but you deployed as a SEAL at some point between 2001 and 2004. Is there any similarities, any differences, or, can you just share about one of your SEAL deployments?
Yeah. The thing I've come to realize about deployments is the time scale is all relative. If you go on a weekend trip and Sunday night your flight is delayed by 4 hours, that is a big deal, right, to you. But because your mindset, I'm coming home Sunday night, it's a 3-day trip. If you thought you were going on away for 3 months and now you're coming home early and your flight's delayed 4 hours, you're like, I don't care. I'll get back on Monday. It's fine. And so 6-month deployments, whether they're to space or to Afghanistan, for me was the same mindset in terms of time. And I've seen people in the military get extended late in a 6-month deployment where they and their family thought it was 6 months and then they get extended for a month. That is a significant emotional event for the individual and the family. And so the year-long mission, I had a couple friends that have done close to a year on the space station, and they knew it was going to be a year going into it. And although up there right now is a gentleman that thought he was going for 6 months and was told that he had to stay for another 6 months. And that's a totally hard thing. So back to your question, the difference between the space deployments and my SEAL deployments, really not a whole lot. Both are, you're working and you got to be mentally sharp and you've got to stay focused and we kind of already touched on balancing your own personal fatigue matrix, meter to know when you need a break. And that was one of the things I felt in my role as a SEAL platoon commander was, hey, we're hitting hard every night, and then to be able to then go into the boss's office and go, hey, the guys need 1 or 2 nights off. We're just gonna sit in our tents and play video games and do nothing. And that I think is important. And we had the same philosophy on the space station. The Mission Control Center is managing your time, and oftentimes there's emergent activities and knowing when when you can work hard. You need to work hard. You need to surge through hard periods, and that's expected when you're on deployment. you're there to kick butt, and you're there to get the mission done and get it done no matter what. But knowing when to accept risk to accomplish the mission and when to not accept risk, I think is the job of a leader, and balance those risk trades and communicate with the other leaders in the organization about, okay, we can do that, but here's the risk you're buying if you ask us to do that.
Yeah. Wow, really good. So we've covered coming into the Navy, going through the academy, being a SEAL, doing that for 11 years before applying for and going to NASA, doing a flight on the Endeavor, and then 2 6-month deployments. I'll just call them for reference at the space station. So then you leave the Navy after 30 years, you transition or retire, pick your word, and you find yourself now as a president and CEO of the National Medal of Honor Museum. Tell us about that. Tell us about the Medal of Honor Museum. I'm surprised that we don't have one to begin with, and it's currently being created. And then tell us about the significant day that just took place last week.
Yeah, so it is astonishing that there's not a National Medal of Honor museum dedicated to Medal of Honor recipients already. Now, truth be told, there are smaller hometown regional ones. There's a really nice one in Chattanooga, Tennessee. But you think of a national museum, you think of the mall in D.C., a Smithsonian type thing, and there's not one there. The organization prior to this is before I got involved. They realized they were going to build a museum and thought about D.C. The organization was headquartered in Charleston, South Carolina, so thought about there as well. But in an assessment of, hey, where's the right place in the country for this? Realized that maybe there's someplace better than Charleston for just visitor throughput and most impact to the nation in terms of location. And then in D.C., it's a long, hard process that literally requires congressional approval. And then where's the real estate that you're going to put it, and all of those challenges. So they decided to put a monument on the mall in D.C. dedicated to the Medal of Honor recipients and build a museum elsewhere. And the elsewhere was determined for very good reasons. And that's a whole other story, the search process. But to be in Arlington, Texas, right near DFW Airport, AT&T Dallas Cowboy Stadium nearby, or Texas Rangers Stadium nearby. I'm actually officing and talking to you right now from the old Texas Rangers ballpark called Choctaw Stadium. There's a Six Flags nearby. It's just a great centrally located place, and the city's been amazing to work with. Now, how did I get involved? Right when I was leaving the military and leaving NASA in the summer of 21, my good buddy who I was, we were swim buddies and buds. We were ensigns together. He is now on the board, or he was at the time and still is, on the board of directors of our foundation. And he called me and said, hey, would you consider coming to work with us on the Medal of Honor Museum? And I was kind of like, just to be honest, I was like, not really sure. That's not what I pictured myself doing. I don't know how to run a museum. I've never done nonprofit work or any of that stuff. I don't think I'm your guy. And he said, no, just hear it out. Come up and take a view, see what we're doing. And the more I learned and the more I got exposed, the more I became interested that it really could feel like a good place to serve. And I, probably like you, David, I what I loved about wearing the uniform is feeling like I was doing something good for the country and while I was wearing it. And I feel that way now in this job, that I feel like I'm delivering something to the country. And so that it feels good. So,
and is the museum open or still being built, or, what's the process?
Yep. So we broke ground a year ago. So it's 1 year into construction. It's 2 more years until the doors will open, till the public can visit. And most of that is building construction, but then probably the last 6 or 8 months, the museum people have to come in and make the exhibits and kind of finish out the interior of the experience for the visitor. parallel to that, we're also building a leadership institute, which will be housed in the museum. But we also realized this past year that we don't need to wait for the building to be built before we start rolling out content for the Leadership Institute. So we have, in fact, in 6 weeks, in early May, we have our first week-long Medal of Honor Institute program. Well, this one will be for adults, kind of mid-career adults. Well, we will have a center for youth. We'll call that the Center for Character Excellence. And the initial steps there are with a digital firm that's partners with the NFL and delivers. The NFL has this thing called Character Playbook, which is in like 27,000 classrooms right now, and we're adding a Medal of Honor module to the Character Playbook. So starting next fall school year, we will be in those same classrooms with the NFL, and in parallel to that, we're developing our own content to inspire youth to live a life of character.
Characters, man, again, like courage, right? And I just think listening to you and you even say, why me in the job that you're in right now? But it's evident, your character and how your friend of over 30 years and having, worked in nonprofit and worked with nonprofits, people participate in nonprofits, in my experience, as much, if not more, for the people who represent that nonprofit than what the mission of the nonprofit is.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
So I just, I applaud you and I thank you. I mean, I'm sure you probably, especially as you get to meet people and every day pinch yourself how fortunate you are that the way you do get to get back and help shape what you're doing. The hardest problem is going to be determining what happens after this. In San Diego, I'm sure you're familiar with the USS Midway Museum, which when it comes to military museums like that, that is the model that everybody wants to emulate. And the CEO, Mac McLaughlin, he's been the only CEO for over a decade, and he just retired.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, just, it's something else. It's real. So, what can we, I'm going to, have them put in the show notes, how people can learn about, where to, the website, but, is it the same website or how can people learn about the leadership, the Center of Leadership Excellence, and just information to maybe follow along, with the construction and maybe provide some support?
Yeah, absolutely. Starts with a website, certainly. mohmuseum.org is our website. You can go and learn all about the project. You can, if you want to read about Medal of Honor recipient stories, you can do that there. Of course, you can do that many places on the internet. But on that same website, it's broken out into the museum, the institute, and the monument. Whatever you're interested in, you can learn more. We're about to start a project update email distribution. So there will very soon be a way to sign up for that. So you can receive information as well as early membership membership program that'll be starting a little bit later this year. So mohmuseum.org is a great place to start.
Well, I appreciate that. Well, I'm going to forego that other question that I normally ask because I just really like how I don't want to take away from just what we've talked about. But I want to give you the last opportunity before I close this off. Is there any other, anything I didn't ask you that you want to share, or just any, final words or maybe leadership advice that you could just throw out there to our listening audience?
Yeah, the military gives us all so many opportunities. And to be quite honest, you wouldn't be asking me any of this stuff today if it wasn't for the Navy letting me be in it when I was 17 years old. And because I went to the Naval Academy Prep School, I was able to go to the Naval Academy. While I was at the Naval Academy is where there in Naps, I met my first SEALs and got inspired for for that. And then, as I told you, in the SEAL teams, I met the first SEAL astronaut, and now I just can't even believe the opportunities that I've had, and I just am so thankful for the Navy to have given me those. But one thing I did want to share is when I became CEO of the Medal of Honor Museum, I was like, I don't know how to be a CEO. I don't know how to lead a small business. I've never done any of that. But with a little bit of help from friends and retrospection, I realized that every place you get put into as you go through your professional career, you are there because you're ready. And all of the experiences leading up to that point have put the arrows in your quiver to allow you to be ready. And the folks that voted you into that role also believe you're capable and ready. Because I think one of the things I really like about the military is that we all change jobs every couple of years. It forces you to step your game up, and you can't get in this comfort zone where you just stay somewhere for a long time and you can do it with your eyes closed. I like the turnover, even though sometimes it's painful. I think it's healthy for the organization and healthy for the person. And the next role you go into, you could be intimidated on day one, week one, but you're ready, and you're ready to do it. And so I just wanted to reiterate that from my experiences, and hopefully some of the listeners have a similar belief, because I think you're put there because people believe in you and you have the tools.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to get you to share about you and your military experience, what you're doing, and how you continue to serve. I want to thank everyone that's tuned in today. You've been listening to a conversation with Chris Cassidy, the CEO of the National Medal of Honor Museum, former Navy captain who transitioned from Navy SEALs into NASA. And boy, what an amazing career, what an amazing life to live, and with many years ahead. So you can learn more. We're going to put the website for the Medal of Honor Museum. Please share this out with your family and friends, and you can learn more about the Enlisted Leadership Foundation by visiting our website, enlistedleadershipfoundation.org. I'm David Deary. Thanks again for joining. Have a great day.
Produced by Podcast Architects.